Top 10 Gissah perfumes.
Here's some codes to save you some cash on your next Middle Eastern niche or designer fragrances.
What's going on, guys? My name is Neeb. Welcome back to AROMATIX. Today we're going to be ranking the top 10 Gissah perfumes in my collection. Before we get started, make sure to leave a like so that YouTube can recommend this video, and subscribe because 60% of you just subscribe. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the least favorite of mine. And it's not necessarily a bad fragrance by any means. It's just not something that I could potentially wear. Although I know some gentlemen actually do rock this. It's called Hudson Valley. Not something I would wear because I find it to be a bit more feminine. It smells like rose, maybe a little bit of saffron and musk in the dry down. A beautiful fragrance for women. So I know there are some gentlemen that like to rock this fragrance, but for the most part, to my nose, it smells pretty feminine for the East. And what does that even mean? Well, it's got notes of saffron, black currant, a little bit of freshness, fruity top, but mostly this aromatic musk and patchouli dry down. So rose dominant fragrance that has this musky patchouli in the dry down. It smells really good. I think it smells really good, and the performance of this is pretty damn strong. This is like signature women's fragrance in like Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, etc. The actual notes doesn't necessarily have musk. It's more so of an amber. It must be some kind of their proprietary blend or fixative that's recreating this musky vibe, but for the most part, it's going to be that saffron, rose, patchouli, and amber combination. It smells really nice just on women, and so for me, it makes sense why it would place as number 10. So number 10, Hudson Valley. Coming in at number 9, this is going to be a part of their Sky collection that came in a pair of Nexus and Horizon. Horizon is easily my favorite one. This smells like an ambery, toffee, aromatic style fragrance that's fashioned or smells like, think of Azzaro the Most Wanted Intense Eau de Parfum. This places me in those vibes. Not as ambery and a bit more aromatic and musky, giving it that Middle Eastern touch to it, and I love it for that. The only reason that it's placed so low on this list is because it's common. It's not necessarily going to be the most common for people here in the West, and I think it actually might be the best for those of you who are trying to get into this house of fragrances to get the Sky collection. And Nexus, just for a reference to give you guys a little bit more, this kind of smells like an Aventus Hachivat style DNA with a bit more ambroxan. So it kind of smells like a hybrid of like Sauvage meets something of Aventus or Hachivat. Not necessarily a clone. I don't think it's exactly a clone, and I layered these. Layering them together, you guys, was amazing. I really enjoyed rocking this. I got a few compliments. Projection like a beast, and total longevity, I will say though, capped at about 8 to 9 hours, but still really good. And it comes a part of a set that's smaller than the actual 100 mls and the 200 mls. It's 90 mls. You get 2. If you're interested in any one of these fragrances, make sure to check the links down in the description. Coupon codes, lowest prices from reputable and authentic sources, okay? There are fakes of almost everything in the market nowadays, and at the very least, the links in the description I can vouch for. So coming in at number 8, it's only placed this low on the list because of the fact that it's limited edition and it's likely out of stock. If you can find this, I mean, I wouldn't really go crazy and try to pay overpriced prices, but in consideration for that, they're lower on the list. I do genuinely love these, and these smell like authentic, and these smell like fragrances that I have not smelled or put my nose on before. This is called Aish Saeed. It's a collaboration fragrance with a famous Middle Eastern singer, Abdulmajid Abdullah. So growing up, I listened to a lot of his songs, etc. And this is named after one of his songs. It's called Aish Saeed, like I said. What this kind of smells like is this fruity apricot style, buttery, creamy, and earthy dry down that's creamy woods and amber. It actually smells really good, really freaking good. Slightly jammy, a little bit earthy coming from the osmanthus. The apricot accord also coming from the osmanthus. This is one of the best osmanthus based fragrances that I've smelled personally. Sometimes if it's just too much of that note focused and centered, it's gonna come off a little bit bitter and maybe earthy, but this is perfectly blended and balanced with the right amount of vanilla, the right amount of kind of this gummy style of fruits. It smells really good. Got me a lot of compliments, and in the dry down is where you started to get like this ambery, sandalwood, and patchouli. That's kind of a signature DNA in the Middle East, the dry down, the whole patchouli, amber, sandalwood dry downs. This is really good, honestly. I give this one like a total was like a 9 out of 10, but genuinely the whole experience of rocking this was a 10 for sure. Got me compliments. I wore it to the gym. It lasted all day. It smells really freaking good, and it's a damn shame that they discontinued it, but understandably so. The next one that came out before this one is also another collab with the same singer, and it's called Awwal Hikayatna. And what that basically means is our first encounter. Now this is a little bit better in my opinion because of the versatility. This has a more watery, fresher style DNA, although stemming or seeming like it could have stemmed from a very similar style scent profile. So this smells like it could have potentially been a more jammy and cooler weather flanker of this, although both of these I personally would wear in every single season. I would probably reserve the Awwal Hikayatna for more so spring and summertime, whereas this is literally all year round. It does have more of this musky leather in the dry down. And I personally wouldn't say that these are actual like flankers of each other, but there's definitely similar notes that are used across the boards, or notes that will remind you of each other while still offering a new scent profile. Not really a true flanker, but it does smell like something that had some stemming inspirations, maybe about like 30%, nothing really more than that. So great releases, great limited editions, and these have honestly inspired me to pick up all of the limited editions, God willing, in the near future for future reviews. Moving on to the number 7 spot, this is called Gasa Sava, and this is one of the fragrances that I don't feel like I see much talk about, although not that unfamiliar of a DNA as well. This honestly smells like a Middle Eastern take on the whole angel share DNA. So it's boozy, it's got this cognac vibe, more so around the dates, a little bit spicier, apple pie warm, a candle style fragrances, basically, the whole angel share, but it works. It smells really good. It's one that I would wear, and it's one that I do wear. Sava, however, takes that style of fragrance, tones down some of the booziness, makes it a little bit more kosher, if you will, and adds some of that date accord, which really just makes it more fruity nuance, gives it more of a melody style of fruits with that tonka bean style sweetness, rather than just focusing on one jammy mandarin accord. You get a little bit more fruity nuances coming from Sava. What you also get is more spices, of course, and you also get less of that booze. In terms of longevity, this lasts all day, and I find this to be unisex as well. For those of you who like a bit spicier, a bit more, you know, punchy, you're going to love this. Although I will say that Angel Share has more of a richness, a bit more of a depth and ambery nature to it. It seems like you're getting a more full-bodied fragrance, but nevertheless, you're getting 200 mLs, and if you look at the description, you'll find all of these to be under like 150 bucks. So it's a great deal. You're getting 200 mLs for less than 200 bucks, basically. This has in fact stemmed even, you know, clone or inspired by Zlatafas Khamra, which is in fact inspired by this fragrance rather than Angel Share itself, and you'll find the similarities to be of the same equivalence, coming from, you know, a bit more spices, a date accord rather than that rich and ambery style cognac coming from the whole Angel Share DNA. They're still pretty close. They're still pretty close, more so twists, if anything. A great fragrance, lasts all day, just not really that much of a show-stopping fragrance, and that's pretty much it. Moving on to the next one, another 200 ml giant. It's called Calabria by Gissah Perfumes. This is aromatic, it's woody, it's got like this Laotian oud style undertone, it's got creamy, ambery, woody aromatic. So if that's your vibes, masculine, definitely more masculine, then you're gonna enjoy this. I get these tea accords, not necessarily going too much towards the green aspects. It's more like tea, and coming like from sage or divana or artemisia, of that family of fragrances with a woody undertone. That Laotian oud is what I personally get, and it kind of resembles a more creamy, ambery style of oud. Not necessarily animalic, but it does have a couple of facets that seems like it might have some animalistic accords, potentially coming more so from something like musk. So what this reminds me of is family of fragrances like Latent Exclusive. Well, there isn't really much of a family when we were coming to that. It reminds me of Latent Exclusive because it's one of the few fragrances that I own that has Laotian oud. It's not a spitting image. I don't think it's a clone or anything like that, but rather it's going to remind you of that because of that very specific Laotian oud, like I said. All of the aromatics, the ambers, the richness, they're two different things for sure. It might be like a 50% resemblance, whereas this one focuses much more on those aromatics and the projection nature, or the projecting nature of the fragrance for sure. So projects a little bit harder. It's not going to be as ambery, as rich, as vanillic that I get personally with something like Latent Exclusive. But if you like those vibes, this seems a bit more wearable because it takes that Laotian oud and brightens it up a little bit, making it signature scent worthy for certain occasions, or for certain seasons rather, I should say. So spring, fall, and even the winter time. I wouldn't necessarily signature scent it. I would wear it more casually, just not necessarily every single day. I do have certain times where I have a taste for it, but for the most part, it does smell like something that should be reserved for maybe more special occasions, basically. So when it comes to this and Latent Exclusive, they're in two different, although in the same family, they're in two different realms. I don't think they compete with each other because, like I said, this genuinely goes more aromatic and projecting, whereas Latent Exclusive goes more ambery, vanillic, and seductive close encounter style DNA, while still performing. Both of these are definitely performing fragrances. So the only reason I mention some of these other fragrances is because they're not as available in the West, and I feel like giving you guys certain familiar fragrances, you'll be able to relate or even imagine the scent profiles, you know, considering the fact that you can't really sample these every day. There's some value. I think there's a lot of value in talking about what it smells like. If it's a clone or if it's really that close, I'll flat out tell you, you guys, this smells exactly like it. But these are genuinely the cases with these fragrances. There's absolutely differences. And like I said, if we come across something that smells too much like something else, we'll do exactly that. But this 40-50% something like Latent Exclusive. So moving on to the next fragrance, this is coming in at number 4. It's the brand new Senna. Now, this is the case where, I mean, genuinely, you guys, I sprayed this on. I loved rocking it. It comes with a whole set. In fact, the set is actually really nice. This is a Senna box. You open it up and it comes out with like this cutout, one of those old school books. And you have like this car diffuser set and the oil. Look at that. Wow. But it was after my wearing, and initially I was like, oh, this reminds me of Altair or Altair or Altair, I don't know exactly what it is. I was like, but no, it seems like it's a little bit harder on the cardamom. And so I rocked it and I was like, nah, I don't think this is it. Until the other day when I was actually comparing them and testing them side by side, this smells a lot like Altair. I mean, it's like 85%, man. This is one where I will say smells a lot like Altair. However, the dry down of this one does go a bit more ambery and more cardamom. But that's it, genuinely. I still love it though. It's still number 4 space. With this one, as it starts to dry down, the ambers, the vanilla, it's creamier. This is definitely creamier. It's got more of that cardamom and that cinnamon richness. So Senna smells a lot like it though, man. It smells a lot like it. That doesn't take away from how good it smells though. So it's on number 4 place and genuinely one of the best ones I would personally keep in my collection. Just not the most unique if you have Altair. That's it pretty much. So is it worth it? I still think it's worth it personally. I love it. I got a diffuser. I got the fragrance. I loved rocking it. Didn't take away from that. But I will say that, I mean, if you're looking for something original that doesn't smell like anything, this isn't really going to be that. However, I will say, with that being said though, this is still going to be a great value for those. Let's put that aside and just talk about the scent. The scent is a 10 out of 10. My experience with this was a 10 out of 10. And I would say the same thing for Altair. So, you know, not all regions have all fragrances. And if you don't have that fragrance, you're absolutely gonna love this. It's one of the best ones. And genuinely, if this actually was placed at number 1 for me because it was that big of a hit immediately, almost immediately. But after that resemblance, it for me took a back seat. So listen up, if you don't have Altair or if you've never smelled it, this is probably number 1 from the brand right now. But if you have it or you've smelled it or it's on your list or you'd rather just go for it, then that's why it's placed at number 4. Still really good, still really good. I'm not dogging on the scent profile because I love it genuinely, but it doesn't smell brand new. That's pretty much it. In terms of the longevity, I didn't get more than about 8 hours, and the projection was solid for like 2 hours. Vanilla, cinnamon, ambroxan, and a lot of orange flower. Those florals, it's beautiful. I genuinely love this, and I would signature scent this every single day. The performance, it's not beast mode though. You get 90 mLs in an eau de parfum concentration. So not beastly, smells amazing. Smells amazing, but also smells like something else that I do own. So moving on to the next one, this grew on me big time. This grew on me big time, and unfortunately I got the small bottle, but I will be grabbing the big one if I run out of this, because I mean, come on, like how many fragrances do you need in your collection? La Luna by Gissah Perfumes. Very unusual, very strange, but also unisex as well. This has notes of cotton candy, incense, some fruits, etc. And it was a little bit unusual and strange. Patchouli, incense, cotton candy, like what the hell is going on? But that's exactly the style of fragrances that I eventually end up falling in love with, and that's exactly what happened with this one. So could potentially go up in the ranks, and as time progresses, if there are any releases that really top this list, I think it's fair to make this every like 6 months or so. Unless there are like 3 bangers, you know, that come out back to back, then I don't see any lists like this coming out within the next 5 to 6 months. They are releasing a lot of fragrances, and for the most part, those recreations or remakes should be consistent for the most part. But I'm also interested to see how, you know, how many of their new fragrances can stack up against the old ones. So if you're interested in following up or keeping up with some of the best fragrances from this fragrance brand and others, make sure to subscribe now, and let's get back to La Luna. It's addicting, and you have to like incense, ladies and gentlemen. You have to like incense. I find that this is pretty unisex. The you know, cotton candy accord, maybe the raspberry and apricot might make it lean slightly femme, but the incense and the woody nature takes it right back towards the perfectly unisex. This smells like, I don't know, it's weird, man. It's kind of like Ultramol aspects meets like you know, interlude aspects. It's crazy. It's a really good scent profile, and not as masculine as that sounds either, genuinely. Beautiful fragrance, very unusual, very strange. I would place it at number 3, but you have been warned, this has a lot of incense. So if you don't like Bakhur, you probably won't like it, but if you like Bakhur, this is definitely one of the ones that you need to check out. It smells really good. Moving on to the number 2 spot, this is going to be one of the guys' favorites in the West, I believe, personally, because it does a lot of aquatic, woody, fresh, and olibanum, and incense and patchouli. Reminds me of Acqua di Gio Profumo, except with a Middle Eastern touch, and beast moded the F out. Not necessarily necessarily a cologne by any means, not a cologne, actually more like 60% with their own touch, like I said. This is called Gissah Capri. And this style of fragrance is actually very prominent or very liked in the western part of the world because it's simple, it's aquatic, it's fresh, it's woody, and maybe a little bit of that oriental resin, along with this patchouli and incense. The signature Profumo had a lot of those similar style accords and notes, and unfortunately it got discontinued. This stuff kind of revives it, but it's not necessarily a clone. So don't go into that thinking that it's going to be exactly like Profumo or anything like that. It just treads in that vein. So if those are your types of fragrances, then this is actually a really good one as well. It does dose up the olibanum big time. So you get more of this ambery, oriental, balsamic vibe to the fragrance than you would even with Profumo. But the incense, patchouli, and the aquatic vibes that we're familiar with, it's there. It's familiar, but also, you know, different at the same time. You will definitely stand out with something like this. 200 mLs for under 150 bucks of beast mode fresh fragrance. This stuff lasts all day and projects like a solid 3-4 hours. You got to be careful with the trigger, otherwise it can be too much genuinely. So you have been warned. Last but not least, number one. I really contemplated on whether or not I should put it on number one because it's like, man, everybody, you know, a lot of people have it. A lot of people in the East smell like this, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it smells like $1 million. It smells like Middle Eastern Prince vibes, genuinely. It's called Imperial Valley Man. This stuff stemmed or created a lot of buzz, and it still has a lot of buzz. It's an aromatic leather, musk, woody, and oud fragrance, basically. The oud is not anything animalic, but more so, it actually opens up relatively fresh. There's pink pepper, there's some bergamot, I believe some Divana, aromatic Divana. It's very aromatic and very projecting. That leather musk combination with those aromatics, like rosemary as well, really gets a lot of people's attention. And not only that, the fact that this is a beast mode performing fragrance, it's absolutely ridiculous. If you spray this on, you wear it, you're going to be filling rooms with this fragrance that just smells like straight up royalty. Leather, musk, aromatics, oud, not too animalic, but you do have to like leather, aromatic centric fragrances. It's, in my opinion, it's relatively masculine, but a lot of women can rock this and do rock this. It's the leather aromatic combination, or specifically the leather rosemary combination and that musk, that I think makes this one lean more so towards the masculine side of things, including that vetiver in the dry down. A beautiful fragrance. It deserves a 10 out of 10. Easily number one from the brand, genuinely. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my top 10 Gissah perfume fragrances. This list will be, you know, changing in a couple of months, every couple of months, I should say, depending on how many of their fragrances I end up grabbing and how many other fragrances they end up releasing. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Make sure to leave a like, hit that subscribe button. Until the next one, peace.